This is Guitar 101 Rammstein, and in this video I'm going to go over some different tunings for a 4-string cigar box guitar. There's plenty of videos out there on different ways to tune these, and there's a lot of ways you can tune them. So I'm going to try to avoid the more typical ones. I'm going to play some demonstrations on different tuning. I'll put timestamps below so you can skip ahead to them. And yeah, we'll check it out. And before I get started on that, there's one thing I found that's really helpful for this. It's a website. It is called Guitar Scientist. And if you go to guitarscientist.com/generator, it's a very helpful fretboard diagram that you can customize. You can customize it to 4 strings in any tuning you want, and you can also from there look up different scales. So I found that really helpful. I'll put the link in the description below. Before going more into tuning, one last thing I'd like to cover is the string gauge. So you can put any kinds of strings on a cigar box guitar. This one is made by JN Guitars. It's a company not huge. I did a little bit of research. They have some social media, Facebook page, YouTube channel, except they don't seem to be very quick to answer. I did send them a message today. We'll see when they get back, to ask just what's their standard string gauge they put on this particular model. Other than that, that's one little thing I wish they would have included in the packaging to tell you that. It looks like acoustic guitar strings, like steel strings. Not steel, but for a steel string guitar. And I mean, to me, if I compare it to one of my other acoustic guitars, I would guess this is a DGBE. So it's the first 4 strings of the guitar, the highest pitch strings. You know, when that always gets confusing sometimes when I've seen some of these videos on tuning. Are they referring in the order of tuning from the top string down or the bottom string up? Anyway, when I refer to tuning in these videos, I'm going to be referring from the top string working downwards. So in this example, this is just like a tuning I was last playing around with, and it's one I like to use a lot. It's tuned in fifths basically. You can see a video. I'll put an info card above of how I tune acoustic guitars this way, and it's one I play around with a lot. So I did this, and I have to say the tension feels awfully high. It's hard to do like hammer-ons and stuff especially on the first string. And that also has an advantage if you're using a slide, because I'm terrible with these things and I'm practicing a bit more, but it's really easy if the action's not really high for a slide to get that clunky noise, you know, instead of you get that noise. So this is a pretty high tension, and that's the thing you got to keep in mind. You know, the tuning is very versatile, but if you over tighten a string, it's going to pop. Another thing to keep in mind is if you're changing strings, that'll work, but you're probably going to have to do some adjustments on the string nut and the bridge. So there are exceptions to how versatile it is. Anyways, this tuning I'm going to start off with, it's tuned in fifths, like I said. It's an open kind of C power chord. So it's C, G, C, G. And that's starting from the top string, C, next string down, G, C an octave up, and G an octave up. So it's open tuning. You know, you can just strum it with no hands, or you can bar across and get a chord. This tuning's pretty. Like I said, I use it a lot, so I like it. But there's kind of a sweet zone here. If you use this tuning to pretty much like even a beginner can, if they can get their fingers in the place and time, can make it sound good. If you just focus on the frets 3 and 5. And like I say, you can bar. Yeah, just like any open tuning. You could play all the strings as drones and just fret one string. G, C, G tuning. So next we'll look at another one. We'll look at a few open tunings and also some fretted ones. But back to this website I'm using for the tuning, that's going to help you kind of like transpose. So if you want a tuning that's maybe too high tension or too low tension for your strings, say it's too high, then look at like what the same notes are on the 12th fret when you set it up in that tuning, and go a few frets down, as many as you need, and then just look at like what would be on the 9th fret or the 10th fret, and that can tell you what to open tune to safely. So let's check out a different tuning now. So here we have a non-open tuning, which in my opinion is kind of the more boring way to use this instrument, but it works, especially if you're primarily a guitarist or a bass player. Since these are the first 4 strings of a guitar, I've gathered, I tuned them that way. The only thing different is I tuned it more like a bass in that way, so they're all in fourths. So from the top string down, we have D, G, and now instead of B and E, it's C and F. So all tuned in fourths. So you can play it just like you're playing a bass or the low 4 strings of a guitar. And I mean, yeah, it works really good. You don't have to relearn scales or chord shapes or anything, but it's kind of boring for the instrument, I think, but it works. You can still use like your major and minor bar chord shapes. And you just gotta pretend you don't have those bottom two, the first 2 strings of a normal guitar, of a 6-string guitar. So it works very well, but like I said, I think that open tuning is a lot more interesting on these because it kind of rewires your way of thinking on the fretboard. So that's all I'm going to go into for this kind of standard tuning. Now we're going to look at some more open tuning alternatives. Alright, so this next tuning is an open D minor. I see a lot of the open tunings in major, which are cool, but I wanted to do something different, so I tried minor. And this is tuned from the top string working downwards. D, G, and of course the more you change the tunings, it's going to take a little while for the strings to adjust and the neck to adjust before it gets really stable. So that is D, let's get it to D, G, I hear that popping sound. That means I have to carve this nut out or lubricate it. A sharp, that makes our minor triad, and a high G. Now this tuning, I just tried it for the first time and it's pretty interesting. What I like about it is it allows you to do easy chord progressions because we have an open minor chord, we can bar, and then to make a major chord, you're just going to bar off and hold that 2nd string from the bottom up, 1 fret higher. So it's really easy to make major and minor chord progressions this way, working in this kind of linear fashion across the fretboard. Still play kind of this open drum way, you know. Whatever string gauge this is, I don't know, but it's a little bit higher tension. It feels more like a acoustic with some kind of medium strings on it. mostly on the first string. You can hear it like, and this low string is a bit higher. But actually it's about normal. It's the first string that is definitely higher. I can tell just the reaction of the string for the tension. For vibrato, for hammer-on, stuff like that, you can really tell it. But that is an open minor tuning. Open D. Use that website I showed earlier and you can find how to transpose that to whatever open minor key you want. Just think of the major minor triad. You know, I could switch that around a bit. I could turn, let's try it real fast. I'm going to turn that A sharp, to a G. This is a bit scary because the string feels like the tension is tight. And it is if I'm turning it all the way up to an A or G. So I'm going to try, hopefully not break a string, to an A sharp. Nah, I really feel like that's going to... Yes, it broke a string. Damn it. Alright, so time to change the strings. Then I know what gauge is on here. And in this video I'm going to show you tuning for a 3-string cigar box guitar, because I just showed you how not to tune one and break a string. Luckily I broke the first string, the bottom string, or the top string would have been cool. The middle ones would be more of a headache. So if you're contemplating on a 3-string or 4-string cigar box guitar, I think 4-string is the way to go because you can restring it. Luckily I do have some extra strings, but first, after it broke, I just played around with it in this 3 strings and it's actually really cool. So what tuning is this? This is fifths again. That is a D, or it should be. G. And that popping nut. And B. Well, that is a major. So this is open D major tuning. I was looking up so much stuff on tuning. I was reading about Jimmy Page with the mandolin, something like that, and I just hit a chord, and then it made me think of this thing is I can remap how my brain works for how I'm writing riffs on the guitar or a fretboard. So I can use those shapes all the time, but no, they sound different. Sometimes it throws you off because you hit a note you're not expecting. So let's put that string back on that I broke. I'm going to use some Dunlop acoustic 10s. Just what I happen to have. So top string to bottom, D, G, G, D. So we'll look at one final tuning before ending this video, and it's another tuning in fifths, but just a different voicing. So this is working again from top string to down, D, D, the same exact pitch D, so we have a unison pair of strings. Gives a cool, like, you know, kind of like a 12-string effect. And then the third string down is A, and another D on the last, the bottom string. So once again, D, D, A, D. And you can experiment with this with what strings you put on. So you could do all Ds or change which note is higher, which one's lower. You know, I could put 2 B strings on here, for example. I think I can get away with that, no problem with the string nut. And another advice, you know, if you're getting one of these and you break strings sometimes when you're messing around with the tuning, as like you saw earlier, or you want to try different, like 2 of the same strings, things like that. Don't go crazy buying a bunch of guitar strings. You can buy from musiciansfriend.com. They have a brand called Musicians Gear, and their strings are like dirt cheap. They're like $2 a set, and they're decent. They're very decent for the price. So I mean, those are perfectly fine for this. If you're not in the States, in Germany and in Europe, there's Thomann, and they have another brand that's really cheap. I think it's like this Harley Benton brand. I have to look it up, but they're also like the same price. So yeah, you can really experiment a lot more if you change what strings are in what place on it. But this is this tuning, and it's pretty cool. Like I said, it has this unison. It sounds a lot similar to the other open tuning I did at the beginning, I believe. But with these unison strings, I don't know, you can make, it depends on what scale you're playing in, what mode you're playing in. If I use like Phrygian scale, so that's like 0, I'm going to just go through the first part of it, 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. So let's see. You can get, you know, it's going to depend on your playing, what scale you're playing in, and etc. But all these different tunings will give you a lot of different ideas. You know, so that's it for the tuning video. I might do some more. It's really up to you guys. What do you want to see? What do you put in the request? Put it in the comments. I usually respond to that stuff, especially when I have some free time, which I do right now for a little while. You know, hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't, because I'll be doing more videos more frequently. I did take a long hiatus for a while. Thanks for watching. Till next time.